Hey, what's up? My name is Ryan, and I have been an athlete pretty much my whole life, and I've been seriously weightlifting for 4 or 5 years, passively kind of training and weightlifting and doing athletic training for about 8 to 10 years. I'm going to be 21 in June. And here's what I would do differently if I were starting over again in the gym. So if I was starting fresh at like 15, 16 years old, I was just getting into the gym for the first time, knowing what I now know after much trial and error, here are some of the things I would do differently. Number one, I would have a training goal. I would want to know what I'm training for. So if I'm an athlete, what am I training for? Am I training to get more explosive? Am I training to get leaner, more flexible, more agile? Am I training just to get big? Am I training like a bodybuilder? What am I training for? Before, when I went to the gym, I ended up putting on a lot of muscle, kind of went through that newbie gains phase, which was super cool. But I had no idea what I was training for. I was a hockey player who probably should have been training more lower body, but I just loved seeing my biceps get bigger. And so my upper body kind of blew up. Then I had to get my legs up too, and went into kind of had some injury issues. So the first thing I would do is set a goal. What are you training for? When you look online and you see photos, what's your dream physique and your dream performance? So what does your dream physique look like, and what does it feel like? What do you need to be able to do? Depending on your sport, if you have a sport, and if you don't have the sport and you're just in the gym for its own sake, that's also a goal, for training for purely aesthetics, purely for looking good. Or maybe you're training for longevity. Maybe you're training to just feel good and feel stronger and more healthy in your body. Step one, know what you're training for. Step two, once you know what you're training for, adjust accordingly. So right now, I'm training to get lean and flexible. That's what I'm training for. I have a lot of muscle built up. I'm about 195 pounds at 5'11", so I got a good amount of muscle mass on me. But right now, gaining muscle is not my priority. And so if I didn't have a training intention or didn't have a training goal, then I wouldn't really be focused in the gym. Maybe I'd still be trying to pack on muscle. But now I know, okay, this is not a phase of training that I'm in where I'm going to be packing on muscle. I know that I'm going to be leaning out. I'm going to be focusing more on my diet and stuff outside of the gym. And when I'm in the gym, I'm also going to be adding in a lot more mobility work, a little bit more cardio at the end of my lifts. That is very, very helpful, very keen. The next thing I'd want to know, what are we on, the third point now that I'd want to know, is that the simple stuff works. If you look online and you see a bunch of weird movements that you've never seen before, some dude's on like a balance ball and he's holding up a kettlebell up here and a dumbbell in the other hand and he's twisting, you don't need to do that. Squat, bench, deadlift I'm a little bit more iffy on, but some type of RDL, basic compound movements, pull-ups, push-ups, the simple stuff works great. The simple stuff is simple for a reason. Doesn't mean it's simple because it's easy, because benching a lot of weights is still tough, doing pull-ups is still tough, it's still going to take some effort, but it's simple for a reason. I tried so many weird training splits and programs and things like that. A basic 3 times a week full body, 4 times a week upper lower split, or 5 to 6 times a week push pull leg split works great. There's a few others, like there's the Arnold split that you can experiment with, but the basic training splits work great. If they're absolutely normal, pick the one that you like the most out of like push pull legs, depending on how many days a week you can get into the gym. If you can only get in the gym like 3 days a week, I would recommend full body or upper lower. If you can get in more than that, I'd recommend push pull legs. Simple works. Do the simple thing because the simple stuff works. The key to success in the gym and in fitness, and also in life too, this is a valuable life lesson, is that simplicity plus consistency equals success. Now, simple does not mean easy. Again, benching a lot of weight is simple. The form is simple. Working up, progressive overload is simple, but it's still going to take some effort. So simple doesn't mean easy, but the simple things that you do consistently over a long period of time is what works. The next thing too that I'd like to offer is don't try to take any shortcuts. If you are in a phase where you would like to get leaner, plan for that to take about 2 to 4 months at least. All right, don't try to cut corners. I once heard a great quote that said, the The fastest way to get to where you really want to go is the slowest way. The fastest way to do well in school is to actually take your time to study. The fastest way to do well in the gym is to actually take your time to learn the movements, to understand what your body responds to master the nutrition, and that takes time, and that's okay. Going right along with that piece of advice, I would also recommend that you learn to give yourself some grace and accept where you are. If you're ambitious like me, you see a picture of some dude and he's oiled up. Sounds a little wrong, but he's looking good, he's big, he's jacked. And you look at a photo of a guy like that and you're like, I want to look like that. And maybe he has 15 more pounds of muscle than you, or maybe he's 5% body fat leaner than you, and it's going to take some time. So give yourself some grace. The joy is the journey, and the joy is knowing that you're moving towards your goal instead of away from it. I think I heard this from Tony Robbins. He said that progress equals happiness. So it's not just about getting what you want and getting there right away. It's knowing that you're on the right track to get there. And how do you stay on the right track to get to your goals? You add simplicity and consistency. You bench twice a week. You do pull-ups twice a week. You squat twice a week. You get in the gym. You go in for a good 45 minutes to like an hour 15 of lifting. You do a little mobility. You do a little cardio, and you're out. And you do that day in and day out, and you will see the progress. The next thing I wish that I had learned was that lifting builds muscle. Shredding is all about being in the kitchen. Or what am I saying? Being in the kitchen. Not being in the kitchen. It's made in the kitchen. What do they say? Abs are made in the kitchen. It's about nutrition. If you want to get shredded, it's about nutrition. If you want to build muscle, it's about how much you lift. What do I mean by that? When you're bulking, or maybe you're not even bulking, maybe you're just not even looking at your diet, but you just have a general goal of getting stronger at your lifts and gaining muscle, what you eat really doesn't matter, because as long as you're not cutting, you're probably getting close to enough of the macros and calories that you need. And really, if you're just going in, you're kind of eating your normal diet and you're just lifting, you're going to gain muscle. Your muscle fibers are going to tear, they're going to build back. Cutting, on the other hand, is not about how much you train. You could move from a 6-day-a-week split in the gym down to 3 days a week full body and do a little bit of cardio and just make sure you watch your diet, and you will lose body fat and get shredded pretty quick. So if you're cutting, what you do outside of the gym is way more important than what you do inside the gym, which is kind of hard, right? Because when you're cutting, you might go in for like a great lift and you're like, man, I got a sick lift today. Like, I'm going to get shredded. And then afterwards you eat just a ton of food. And it's like, no, you're not. The hardest part about cutting is that you do have to watch your diet. It shouldn't kill you. And that's actually a point that I'll say in a second. But cutting happens outside of the gym. Shredding, getting leaner happens outside of the gym. Building muscle happens in the gym. I think people actually overcredit getting the perfect amount of macros and calories they need to build muscle. Really, to build muscle, it's like, how much are you in the gym? How much are you pushing to failure? Are you going close to failure? That's kind of what matters in terms of building muscle. So losing body fat happens outside of the gym. Building muscle happens inside of the gym. And to that point, the next thing is, don't kill yourself. Don't push yourself so ridiculously hard that you can't recover. You grow the muscle after you do the work inside the gym. You grow outside of the gym. And I think the other thing too is, like, when you're cutting, don't just immediately start eating like 1,000 calories a day. You're going to feel awful. Trust the process. Trust that you'll make adjustments. This is why the slowest way is the fastest way. When I was first cutting and I wanted to get super shredded, I was eating like 1,200 calories a day. It was brutal. I was having like 3 protein shakes a day and like 1 meal of like rice and tofu and vegetables, and it was brutal. It was terrible. Do not do that. If you're cutting and you want to get shredded, just eat like 500 calories below your maintenance. You can go a little more than that, like maybe 600. After your lifts, do 20 to 30 minutes of incline treadmill walking, or a little bit of jump rope or some other type of cardio. I like the incline treadmill walking because I can watch Modern Family while doing that after my lift. It's kind of like a reward. That's what I recommend. But don't overdo it. Trust the process. I think it's a really hard thing as a lifter if you're in the gym and you're trying to lose some weight, you're trying to get a little more shredded, and you check the scale after a week, or like you look in the mirror and you kind of feel like you're at around the same. That's normal. You don't want to do it too much. You don't want to lose your gains. You don't want to lose your muscle. Trust the process. You can always go into more of a calorie deficit, but you don't want to shock your hormones. You don't want to shock your body. Your body knows what to do. Here's another tip too. If you are overweight, like significantly, you're carrying a lot of body fat, don't even worry about cutting. Just fast. I know that sounds crazy, but like literally just go 2 or 3 days without eating. That might sound like an eating disorder. If you have an eating disorder, do not do that. However, if you're a really, really high body fat percentage, cut it. Like tracking calories and macronutrients on like a calorie tracker is good if you're like 15% body fat and you want to get to like 10 or 12. It's good if you're already in good shape and you just want to like make little tweaks. But if you're really out of shape and you're carrying a lot of body fat, you don't even need to track things. You just need to not eat, because when you don't eat, you go into a state of ketosis, and ketosis is where you burn fat for fuel because your body's literally not intaking anything else, and you will shed body fat very, very quickly. I recommend if you're like overweight, just pick 1 day a week where you just don't eat anything that day. Now, if that seems too hard, then yes, just eat in a calorie deficit. That can be a little easier. But what you'll find is that if you pick 1, 2, even 3 days sometimes where you don't eat, by the way, that's a normal practice. That's not unhealthy. Fasting can be healthy. It's used around the world in different medicine practices for cleansing the body. Fasting is good for anyone, actually. It's a good practice. Anyways, what you'll actually find is that your stomach shrinks, and so you get less hungry. When you don't eat for like 2 days, you'll burn a ton of body fat. You'll just shred body fat right off. The rest of the week, you can kind of just eat normally. You don't want to overeat, but eat normally. But you'll actually find that after the fast, you're not like super, super hungry, like craving food. That after the fast, you're actually kind of like a little more mentally clear because your digestive system and your metabolism has been given a bit of a rest. You feel better. I think when people say that they fast, they feel a sense of brain fog and like tiredness lifting. They feel lighter, literally, because they're not carrying so much food and waste in their system. And so if you're very, very out of shape, I recommend fasting. So those are some gym tips. Those are some things that I wish I knew going into the gym. Some things I wish I could tell my younger self. There's so many things. I'll probably make more videos like this about things I wish I could tell my younger self about the gym, about fitness, about health, about life. But those are some good starters. Those are some good starters for deciding whether you're going to cut or you're going to bulk, what your goal is, being simple, nutrition, that kind of stuff. So thank you for watching, and I hope you learned something from this video. Thank you.